if I'm St. Louis, and I told you this last night, for people listening and watching, if I'm St. Louis, I don't trade Robert Thomas now. I wait to see where the draft lottery is, and I try to push a Robert Thomas trade closer in the offseason towards the draft for a team that can hopefully jump up 9 to 10 spots in the draft lottery that can use a guy like Robert Thomas. Welcome to another episode from the Checking From Behind podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your host, Zach, as always joined by my co-host, Preston. We're in the meat of the year now. First off, we have the NHL Trade Deadline. Nothing but NHL Trade Deadline talk today. And then after that, it's the final stretch for the playoff push for a lot of teams that are kind of in the mix here. And we have a ton to talk about today. First off, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, dude, I'm really excited. Busy time coming up for the NHL Trade Deadline, and then the next month and a half of hockey is going to pretty much be playoff hockey for a lot of teams trying to make that final push again. So we're going to see a lot of really good, intense hockey. It's going to be a fun few weeks.
It's going to be a very fun few weeks, and overall, I mean, you have probably 10 to 12 teams right now fighting for, 4 to 6 playoff spots. Probably a little bit more teams because we are seeing a ton of parity throughout the league at the moment, especially this season. But we have a ton to talk about today here. And first off, we have buyers and sellers ahead of the trade deadline. We have about 10 players or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, of players that really we should watch come the trade deadline, even leading up to it. And, yeah, so we have buyers, sellers, and then teams that should hold in terms of buyers and sellers. Let's hop into our updated trade board here first because we have some big-name players on this list. Two of them kind of go hand in hand here, not really on the same team, but same conference. Nazem Kadri, who pretty much wants out of Calgary at this point, and Robert Thomas, who is a name to watch, especially for a team like Utah, and I believe Minnesota might be a team that's kind of inquiring on him. I've heard Utah is really the team to watch here in terms of Robert Thomas, but yeah, it is interesting. But Nazem Kadri here first on our list. Now, these aren't in any order or whatever, just 10 random names thrown together here. But Nazem Kadri is a player who now has a reasonable contract. We saw a couple of years ago where he kind of struggled a little bit, right, with the rest of the Calgary team. That contract at about $7 million or so looked very, very overpayish. And now it looks like it's a fair deal for Kadri and the Flames or whatever team takes on that contract, and it's not as bad now. He's producing. He's one of Calgary's best players this season, and at this point, it's almost expected that he gets traded to me.
Yeah, I believe Nazem Kadri will get traded. The contract, honestly, is pretty attractive, I think, for a lot of teams now because he's one of the few players that are going to be available at the deadline that isn't really a pure rental. You know, he still has 3 years left on his contract after this season. At $7 million cap hit, I know he's 35 years old, so he will be under contract till he's 38. But having that kind of control, and I think he still has more to give, and if you take him on a better team, I think his production will go up.
Yeah, he's a guy who in 23-24 at 75 points, last season 67. And this season he has 41 points. So you've seen that point per game number dip just a little bit over the last 3 seasons. But Nazem Kadri brings a ton to the table. He's not going to be asked anymore to, be a guy who can carry a line or even be a first-line guy. I mean, you add him to your second line. Even if a team adds him and he throws him on a third line, you're in pretty good shape right there. And he can be very valuable to a contending team who is trying to get a little bit more offensive depth, who also has a little bit of cap space. Yeah. And obviously the one team that always comes up with cap space as a contender is the fucking Carolina Hurricanes. And every time I hear their name come up, I know the last 2 years they've gone out and they've tried to go get a pure offensive guy. And obviously Kadri is not that anymore. But just a team that could end up at least inquiring on him or Robert Thomas, kind of the gauge where those teams are at. And Kadri could be a very good asset to a lot of these teams, even a team that might not necessarily be a Stanley Cup contender, but is having either a really good season or has a really good future. Now, if you're a team like Boston, for example, right, you're not going out and get Kadri, right? No. You're trying to retool this thing. Maybe a team that could not mortgage their future or isn't trying to mortgage future contracts, right?
Do we have any idea what the asking price for him is?
I have no idea. I've not heard anything about that at
Yeah.
all. Which would be interesting because obviously there's a ton of aspects that go into it, right? Like salary retention. Um, does he have to waive?
He has a 13-team no trade list, so depending on the team, he might need to waive.
Okay.
So how bad does he want out of Calgary? Will he be willing to waive to go to, I don't know, like random team Philadelphia?
Yeah.
They try to trade for him, and would he waive for Philly?
Right.
Probably not, but
I mean, would he waive for it? Now, I'm not going to say.
or does he just want out of Calgary that bad?
Right. Like, I'm not going to say he's going to go to these teams, but would he wait for, Detroit or Buffalo or San Jose or Anaheim?
I think
Like,
San Jose would be a sneaky good pickup for them.
San Jose
Yeah.
has been a destination that players have kind of wanted to go to over the
They
last couple
they
years.
might not make the playoffs this year, but man, they've got a great future.
I mean, they do have a phenomenal future. I think they're going to be back to where they were in the late 2010s, like that 2016 to 2019, 2020 range, even earlier than that. But that will be soon. But I mean, if you're Kadri, I would want to go to a team that he thinks that can win a Stanley Cup over the next
Yeah,
couple of
because
years.
with him, it's a little bit of a different perspective with him waiving because he still has 3 years left on his contract, right?
Yes.
So it's not like he's a rental and he's like, oh, I want to win a Stanley Cup this year, like, and then I'll pick where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he still has 3 years left on his deal. He doesn't necessarily need to go on a cup contender that's going to win the cup this year.
Right.
As much as he'd like that, but San Jose is a team I'd really like for it to make a move like that.
I would like San Jose to go out and get a little bit more forward depth like that. And it's a move where it's kind of like a bridge to building the roster, right? It's a piece that helps you now, but also it doesn't mortgage your future. You have a ton of cap space. It helps your younger forwards because they have one of the best young forwards
Yeah, it
in
just
the
gets more
league.
experience in the room.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I really do like San Jose. And next guy is a guy that has been thrown around for the last couple months, Robert Thomas of the St. Louis Blues. A name that kind of has come up in when I first heard the name, I was like, there's no way in fucking hell they end up even entertaining offers for Robert Thomas. And here they are. They're entertaining offers, and I got it wrong when we were going over our meeting last night. The asking price is not the three top half first-round picks. It's a premium player plus one high first-round pick.
That's not that bad then.
So that's the minimum asking price, which is a fair asking price in my opinion for a guy like Robert Thomas.
Well, I think with St. Louis, what they really covet is a young defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
They have been trying to get one for the last little bit. As evident with that trade when they traded for Logan Mailloux from Montreal, because that's why they offer sheet to Philip Broberg. They're just desperate to get in those young defensemen right now, because Colton Parayko's having his worst season of his career.
Yep.
Is he injured right now?
I'm checking.
Says he's
that.
on IR on cap wages.
Yeah, I believe he is injured.
Yeah, but their top defenseman this year has been 33-year-old Justin Falk, who has 1 year left on his contract. Like, they just recently extended Cam Fowler for 3 years. He's been a decent fit when they got him. Philip Broberg's cap hit goes up to $8 million next year, so they really like him. So I think they really covet a young defenseman, and if you give them good enough young defensemen, you don't necessarily need to have like a top 15 first-round pick.
Yeah, if they end up in this trade like this, if they end up getting a young defenseman, like we're talking like under the age of 24 or younger, a guy who can be a pillar for your roster in a trade, including Robert Thomas, I wouldn't necessarily need to say you need a top 15 or 16 first-round pick. You can get one in the back half of the first round and be okay with it. Now, if I'm St. Louis, and I told you this last night, for people listening and watching, if I'm St. Louis, I don't trade Robert Thomas now. I wait to see where the draft lottery is, and I try to push a Robert Thomas trade closer in the offseason towards the draft for a team that can hopefully jump up 9 to 10 spots in the draft lottery that can use a guy like Robert Thomas who doesn't necessarily need. Now, every team could use a top 5 draft pick, right? No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care if you're the Avalanche or Sharks. Like, it does not matter.
Yeah.
But, like, if a team like, I don't know, let's say Columbus, for example, right? They end up getting, they finish 11th or 13th in the league standings, right? And they jump up 10 spots to the 3rd overall pick. Do you go to Columbus and acquire trying to make that pick? Because Columbus could obviously use a guy like a top 3 pick, but also they have some core pieces around like Fantilli, Marchenko, Monahan, and you can offer Robert Thomas to him to help a little bit of some scoring. And I know goaltending has been their issue, but Jack Greaves has been good. Corpusalo has been fucking dog shit. So do you go and offer a guy like Robert Thomas? Merzlikins, sorry, not Corpusalo. I'm fucking living in the past there. But point being, though, is that's a team that, like that example that I would do if I was St. Louis.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think St. Louis is kind of in no man's land right now with their team. Is they overperformed last year. They ended up making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a lot of really people had them making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tempered, especially with the way they pushed Winnipeg to 7 games last year.
Yeah.
Kind of pushed expectations. Like, okay, well, they're not like a cup contender, but they should be a playoff team, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what we both thought, was they should be in that wild card conversation. Season obviously hasn't gone the way they planned, and I think they need to retool a little bit. I don't know if training Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou, because I know he was thrown around rumors a lot over the summer. If you want to jumpstart I would say a retool. I don't know if they need to go for a full rebuild right now, but they'll get them a lot of assets. I know like one player they really coveted, who's not available right now, was Bowen Byram last summer from the Sabres, and there was talks that they would send Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou back for him. But that's clearly off the table right now. But
I mean, yeah, exactly. Buffalo's not trading a guy like him.
No.
So there's a lot of decisions that St. Louis and Armstrong has to make going into the trade deadline.
I think the more interesting one is what do they do with Jordan Binnington? Because I think he could be traded for the right price. I think he should be traded for the right price. He has 1 year left on his contract. Joel Horford, I think, has been a solid backup this year. Sometimes, most of the time, playing better than Binnington, in my opinion. If you want to really move on to that next step, I think moving on from Binnington was one of those things you can do.
I think Binnington is a solid guy who they can really look at and trade for, especially making that $6 million and passing the torch over to Hofer and kind of giving him as much NHL experience as possible after the trade deadline, heading into the last month of the season. I think it's very valuable, especially A, like I said, you get off that $6 million, right? B, you're potentially keeping Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. Or if you trade a guy like Robert Thomas, you're getting future assets back. And you know what that means? That means that Armstrong is going to have to rebuild the blue line and retool it. And if St. Louis goes down the route of trading either Binnington, Kyrou, and or Robert Thomas, whatever they do over the next 5-6 days, there has to be a plan in place for the future. You can't just trade one of those guys without knowing how you're going to build the team. Because obviously, I know Armstrong has a complete plan for what he wants to do, but if you're going to trade one of those players, go out and, like you said, get a blue line help, go get younger defensemen to kind of help take off the load from these older guys. Plus, the older guys outside of Falk really haven't been that great. We've seen Broberg has played really good. He just signed an extension. Like you said, they traded for Logan Malou over the offseason. They have Matthew Kessel, who's 25, was kind of playing as like a seventh defenseman, but has been all right for them. And, of course, Tyler Tucker's 26. So they just have to get some more younger guys who can actually fit inside the top four, not a bunch of 24 to 26-year-olds who are just third pair defensemen, maybe second pairs like Broberg.
See, like I think the real key nowadays to winning, building a true contending team is having that elite defense.
Yes.
Right. If you look at like the top teams in the league, Colorado has elite defense. So does Carolina. Dallas has elite defensemen. Tampa Bay has Victor Hedman. Minnesota acquired Quinn Hughes. They have Brock Faber. They have a lot of good young defensemen. The Sabres, Dahlin, Power, Byram. Samuelson. Samuelson's been awesome this year. Yeah. But like if you like Montreal with Dobson and Hudson, you look at all those top teams in the league right now, and what do they all have? They all have elite defensemen.
Yeah.
And that's really, if you want to build a true cup contending team, you need that true elite defenseman.
Yes, you do. You need that guy that is that.
Like the Islanders, I think, are a perfect example. They go out and they win the draft lottery. They get Matthew Schaefer, who's looking like he might be a generational defenseman, but he's already, I would say, elite. And look what he's done for that team. He's transformed them.
Yeah, he has. I mean, you have a solid point there, and I think even a team like Detroit lacks that. Where
Seider's very good.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I fucking forgot about Seider. Seider's elite. My bad.
Seider's an awesome defenseman.
Elite.
Yeah.
And they have Edvinsson too. They have Sandin Pellikka.
Yeah, they have some young guys
So,
coming
okay,
up, but
yeah.
the trend with a lot of these top teams in the league right now is they have that really good defensive core. They're young and they're building. Colorado's a bit on the older side, say with Carolina, but they've had them for years.
They've had them for years, and there's a reason why Carolina has been a top of the Eastern Conference since 2021.
Yeah.
Colorado has won a cup, and now they're on the verge of being a Stanley Cup favorite right now. And
With Dallas, they have Heiskanen and Thomas Harley. They have a great blue line.
Tampa Bay, you've seen these teams. The LA Kings won multiple cups, elite core. The Blackhawks did. The Lightning did. The Panthers did. And they weren't, not all the names jumped out on the page, but what it did, though, was solidify the back end. It gave the forwards leeway to also go play offense while coming back on defense, while knowing that defensemen have their back. And I think at the end of the day, too, it is that 1 to 2 defensemen, and it is that 12 forwards that all play as a team rather than individual. Because you see that issue with Edmonton, where you have McDavid and Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, whatever, Zach Hyman, and then the rest of the team is just there, right?
Yeah, I think Edmonton's a great example because everyone's like, well, they have Bouchard. Bouchard does not play great defense.
I hated the argument. I'm not going to throw shots at Bouchard, but I hated the argument that he should have been on Team Canada, in my opinion.
His defense has gotten a little bit better this year. I think if you look at the analytics defensively, but they're not paying him $10 million to go out and play defense. He's a power play guy. He's an offensive defenseman.
He drives offensive play whenever he's out on the ice.
That's what the Edmonton's paying for. He's not that elite two-way defenseman that they need.
Yes, he's not. And you've seen Edmonton struggle with defense in the past. Even Bouchard, right? And I think that's the big issue here is that you can have Bouchard. You've seen Bouchard and Ekholm together. Ekholm was great when it came to being on Bouchard's pair and helping defensively, but Ekholm has had a season.
Yeah, but and Ekholm's getting older. Darnell Nurse contract exists.
It does. He exists.
He hasn't been what they wanted him to be. Because at the time, it looked like he was an up-and-coming, really good young defenseman, and he just hasn't lived up to the expectations of that contract.
Yeah.
But getting back to why don't we pivot back to the big trade more because we're only 2 players in right now. So Tyler Myers is another, I think, expected trade candidate. I believe he's being held out of Vancouver's lineup until he is traded to keep him healthy, make sure he doesn't get hurt. So I would expect him to be traded, and I would expect a contending team that's looking for some defensive depth to add him.
Yeah, Tyler Myers is a guy who he has 2 years left. 1 year left after the season at $3 million. A very, very attractive contract. Yeah. He's a player who a team that could potentially just need a third pair defenseman who needs a big body, a physical defenseman who doesn't really provide a ton of offense anymore. But he's just a stable guy who is very reliable. Go to a Stanley Cup contender who just needs to finish out the rest of their roster and core in order to really, really put the finishing touches towards the Stanley Cup. So,
I think he could cost more than people think because, he's a fine defenseman. He's not, going to set the world on fire, but he has another year left on his contract and a manageable cap hit. And I think that's what makes it really attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see.
But he has a full no movement clause. Why does Tyler Myers have a full no movement clause?
Because about 99% of players, I feel like
that defeats the purpose. Then
it does very.
That should be served for only the really good players.
Yeah,
that you wouldn't trade anyway.
I bet you teams go into this all right, we're gonna offer you this contract. By the way, you're gonna have a full no movement clause. How does that sound?
I mean, do they kind of expect them just to waive it? Because what if they don't? They can't get mad at the player. They gave the player that right.
Myers can literally just be
clearly, I think he is going to waive it, or he wouldn't have been cool with them benching him.
Yeah. I mean,
because if he would have been up front to the team and said, "Yo, I'm not going to let you trade me. I like living in Vancouver," then he'd be playing still.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played a game since because of trade purposes.
Yeah, so he's clearly on board, but I think it's just ridiculous that Tyler Myers as trade protection. But I think any contending team will be interested in him. So I think you can get probably a second or third round pick for him. Honestly,
I wouldn't be shocked if a team does end up throwing a second round pick out.
That would be a good return for a bottom pair defenseman.
I mean, if Vancouver can just recoup some assets for some of these players are
Well,
going to
they
end up
just need as many draft picks as they can get right now. The higher, the better,
the
because
higher the better.
they need to rebuild.
They need to rebuild. They desperately needed to. Next player on the list here, Steven Stamkos, who also has a full no movement clause.
That
But
one makes sense to give him a full movement clause, though.
yes, yes. I've only heard 3 teams he's willing to wait for: Tampa Bay, Minnesota, and Dallas. Clearly wants to go win a Stanley Cup, and all 3 of those teams currently are Stanley Cup contenders in my book.
I don't see any way any one of those teams can make it work money wise, but
How much is he making? $4 million or $8 million?
8.
8.
And it's like 2 or 3 more years left on the contract, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 more years after this year. So maybe if Nashville's willing to eat 50%,
Mm-hmm.
because if they're willing to eat 50%, that ups what they're getting in return in the draft picks too.
Well, you want to know something for Dallas? They put Tyler Seguin on LTIR overage, which means they clear $6 million in cap space too, which is huge for them going into the trade deadline. Which means Tyler Seguin, for those of you who don't know, Tyler Seguin is not eligible for the rest of the season nor the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's completely shut down for the rest of the year with that. So just want to point that out. Different than just complete LTIR. He's just LTIR overage. He's done. So that could be huge for Dallas going into the trade deadline, whether it is Stamkos or whether it is anybody else. I mean, like you look at Tampa, 3.4. In order to trade Stamkos, I think, like you said, Nashville will end up having to retain 50%.
Yeah, if he's truly only willing to waive to go to like a top tier contender, like you're gonna have to eat money because those contenders aren't gonna have cap space.
Mm-hmm. Unless you make a hockey trade where you clear up enough cap space trading away a couple players.
But this already happened with like with Tampa, for instance, where they weren't willing to pay him $8 million a year a few years ago, and they let him walk.
And
like, why would they trade him back for that $8 million now?
Why? If I'm Stamkos, I'm like, I understand the history with Tampa, but I'm like, he got done dirty.
I mean, I'm sure he still loved to go back there, though.
Yeah, and I'm sure the fans would love to get him back. But it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'll just be holding just a little bit of a grudge with how Stamkos.
Well, clearly not. If it's reported that he's willing to waive to move to Tampa. I think he was frustrated by the situation. He probably understood. I don't think they like really did him dirty. I just think they were honest with him, and they were like, "Look, if you can get that money somewhere else, go get that money, man." But if they, like, I'm sure they were willing to find a way to make it work to keep him. Just the money had to be right.
Yeah, they offered him $4 million a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, now if they trade for him though, and Nashville retains 50%, then they get what they wanted the whole time.
Of course. I mean, it can all work out at the end too with Stamkos. I wouldn't expect Stamkos to get traded unless it is those 3 teams. I would be very shocked if we really see him get moved at less than 50% retained. Or
I don't think he's going to get traded though. So
next, another guy that is on our list, Andrew Mangiapane of the Edmonton Oilers. Things haven't really worked out there in Edmonton.
Yeah.
But a guy who can go in there and be a third-line guy on a contender or a team that could use some more forward depth. And he's not a guy that he's not a top 6 guy anymore like he was. Maybe it is an Edmonton thing. But
seems to be an Edmonton thing.
But I mean, a team again, a guy that can go and help a team win a Stanley Cup, but not.
He also has trade protection. Jesus Christ.
How much?
No trade clause, July 1st through 2025 to June 15th, 26. So yeah, no trade. He can't get traded unless he waives. Jesus Christ.
I heard he's actually going to waive for all 31 other NHL teams.
Really?
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, but I think this signing's been a bit of a disappointment for Edmonton. Mm-hmm. I thought when they initially had signed him, I was like, oh, I think this is good forward depth for them.
Yeah.
You know, he had a bit of a down year in Washington, but maybe it was just, he didn't really fit the team well after, a few really good years in Calgary. But he clearly hasn't fit into the Oilers. I think they projected him as like a second line kind of player.
Yeah.
That's been the Oilers' biggest issue for the last few years is finding good depth forward-wise because that's what's killed them the last couple of years.
And they thought they got it with Andrew Mangiapane in 14 points in 52 games. He only averages 12 and a half minutes time on ice where, I mean, even in Washington too, he only was 28 points in 81 games with 13 minutes time on ice. So, I mean, he hasn't worked out in Edmonton nor Washington, but, I mean, I don't know. It's just Edmonton hasn't been able to find the depth, and I think they failed with Mangiapane and a bunch of other players they ended up bringing in the last couple of seasons specifically. It's just down. Find him a new home, a team that he can just sit on the third line with the contender and just kind of ride it out, right? I think he would definitely be better. Obviously, this is fucking obvious, but be better on like a Tampa Bay or Montreal or Buffalo or Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, like these teams that are at the top of the league that do have a little bit more depth he can play with on the third line that can actually produce. So I know a team like Tampa Bay could definitely use the depth. I know
Tampa's going to be having conversations on almost every top player available. That's just what they do.
Not only top players, but also they lack depth in their forward group and their defense outside of like their top six and their top two pairs. They lack depth. I think Tampa Bay could be a sneaky team that could add 2 or 3 players that aren't making a ton of money. Like, do you see them go out and making a push for Tyler Myers or Andrew Mangiapane? I don't see them going out and making a push for guys like Robert Thomas or Kadri or Kyrou, any of those top guys. But, the guys that are kind of going to do their part on the bottom 6 and the bottom pairs. And, I mean, another guy who could they go out and get? A guy like Luke Schenn as well. Like, Luke Schenn is a guy who I do see getting traded. A guy who will end up providing a ton of depth for a Stanley Cup contender. And if you notice a trend, too, with these are guys that are third-line players, fourth-line players, or bottom pair guys that can help put on the finishing touches of a Stanley Cup contender team and not necessarily big players that are going to be sold off except for a few of them here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at Luke Schenn at this point in his career, he's like a pure 6th defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like he probably like the 7th defenseman on a really good team, but that's still good depth.
It is, and
because my biggest issue with this game is he's a little slow.
He is. He at points when he's skating, it looks like he just has feet in
like
mud.
he's still really smart. He has really good positioning, and that can definitely make up for like a lack of speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Drew Doughty's done a really good job with that his last couple of years, where he's starting to slow down a little bit and he's getting close to 40.
Yep.
Where your smart positioning can change everything. Like you don't have to skate as hard, but if against these top teams in the league, that lack of speed would be my concern.
It would be a little bit of a concern for me as well, and he is a pending UFA after this season, so he's going to be a pure rental, making $2.75.
Oh, it would make no sense for Winnipeg to keep him.
I mean, not that he's going to bring back a ton of assets, but just kind of sell off, and
but
Winnipeg.
It's an asset you need, right?
Right, it is, and Winnipeg isn't trying to sell off pieces, but this, trade like a Luke Schenn or a Logan Stanley, 2 guys that are pending UFAs who aren't making a ton of money, who can be attractive to a team that is looking for that third pair defense.
Yeah, because if they're going to walk anyway, you might as well get something for them.
Exactly, and I mean, I kind of tied in Logan Stanley here as well. He's making, I think, about $3 million or something around there. I could be completely wrong. I have to check that. But Logan Stanley got a big physical defenseman who
he's about 1.2. Yeah, he's gonna get traded.
I mean, there's no way that they don't trade these 2 players.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand together. Logan Stanley is he's a faster version of Luke Schenn in my opinion, but Logan Stanley is having a career year offensively. Defensively, he's kind of been around the same, but offensively, you can potentially kind of use that as like a selling point for him. Like, listen, this dude's having a career offensively. I know he's a UFA, but try to get something back for him. And he can be a very attractive piece to a team who kind of needs a little bit of offensive boost. Now, he's not having a great offensive season in terms of just a general defense, because I think he only has 18 or 20 points this season. But every other season leading up to this, he had 1 total goal in each season. And he has 9 this season, I believe. So
yeah, he's peaking at the right time.
There it is. I mean, again, a guy like a lot of these guys we're talking about so far, providing depth to Stanley Cup contenders.
No, Logan Stanley will 1,000% be traded.
Yes,
and I think there will be a bit of a bidding war for him too.
I think there should be. I mean,
especially at that contract, that cap hit, where virtually any team in the league can trade for him and make the money work.
Like, there's going to be a lot of teams, a lot of top contenders that are going to be in for him. Like, we're talking like, if we see Logan Stanley get traded for some, not a premium asset, but some higher draft pick, let's say a 2nd round pick, and we're like, everybody's going to be like, what the fuck are you doing trading a second-round pick? Here's a couple things. One, the Stanley Cup contenders, they don't give a fuck about draft picks.
Well, yeah, Tampa's the perfect example. Like, they trade all their fucking picks.
They do.
Edmonton's been trading all their picks.
Vegas does it. Like, these teams do not give a fuck. Number 2 is that with that cap hit, you can virtually trade anything for him, and it's okay. In a team like Tampa Bay or Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton, whatever these teams, they're not going to sit here and be like, man, we value the second round pick so much. And plus, a team might have to throw in a second round pick in order to outbid another team. Like, let's say Tampa Bay and Colorado were going at it for Logan Staley, right? It turns into a bidding war. Colorado offers X, right? And Tampa Bay is like, okay, let's do a second round pick for Logan Staley. And Colorado's like, yeah, we're not going to go any further. It's like, okay, you won. Like, sometimes that's how these things go.
Oh yeah, like with that contract and that, I'd say the output, like the stats, the contract, like, yeah, he's going to be a very attractive player.
Yeah.
At the deadline.
Another player who should be one of the most attractive players at the deadline, Vincent Trocheck of the New York Rangers. The Rangers clearly want to retool or rebuild whatever. We saw that note a few months ago that Chris Drury and the Rangers organization put out. And Vincent Trocheck is going to be a hot commodity at the trade deadline. And it goes more into just offensive output. People love to look at the box score and stat lines and just goals, points, assists, games played, whatever. Fuck all that shit. Vincent Trocheck is one of the best defensive forwards in the league. He can win faceoffs. He's going to be very, very valuable to a third line on a team that is looking for some more defensive forward help. And I think a lot of teams could use a guy like Vincent Trocheck, who, frankly, he can play on the penalty kill. I know he has 2 more years after the season left at 5.6, but at that cap hit, at 32 years old, he has 37 points in 44 games played. 12 of those are goals. This is a guy that will be attracted to at least half the teams in the league.
You know what team I'd love to get him? Carolina Hurricanes.
Carolina, yeah.
And he played for them before.
Yes, he has. And I think Carolina needs to – I understand they need that one offensive home run hitter, but they tried it with Gensel 2 years ago. Tried it with Rantanen. He wasn't good.
I mean, those players are in a bit of a different tier than Trocheck.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, Carolina, I think –
Oh, they've swung. Yeah, they're not afraid to take a chance.
They're not afraid to take a chance, and I think they need to maybe back off of that mindset and go out and get a guy like Trocheck who can provide a little bit more depth, because I think that –
his defensive game will help them a ton, because they're a defense-first team anyway.
He'll fit right into Rod Brind'Amour's system, and I don't think Gensel nor Rantanen really fit in their system and what they wanted them to do, which is, it happens. Not every player is going to fit into really how your team plays. So, I mean, Vincent Trocheck will be attractive to almost any team in the league, too. At least half of the teams will end up, I think, going in, at least inquiring to see what the asking price is. And the Rangers are asking for a decent amount, too.
They should be, yeah.
They're asking for, I think, a high draft pick and maybe a couple of prospects for him, which I think is very fair value.
I honestly think with how he played in the Olympics too might have made him a little bit more attractive, where he was played in a lesser role. He was asked to you're out there for defensive faceoffs and penalty kills, and he had no issue doing that, and he did a good job.
He was a main reason why USA went 18 for 18 on the PK. He won big draws. He was vital to the roster that ended up winning gold, and he played a really good tournament. So, like you said, yeah, it probably does.
Raise the fact that he's like not, he wasn't like, okay, I'm only playing on the fourth line, I'm the extra forward some games, I'm not just penalty killing. Like, the way he just slid into that role without ever complaining, I think is a really good sign for a cup contending team. Was like, look, you're not going to be playing like the top 6 like you were in the Rangers because we have the depth. Will you play in the third or fourth line, the bottom 6, and he's shown the willingness to do so.
And it was a very quiet production, too. You see a lot of these guys, like we saw loud production from Quinn Hughes, Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, these guys that were productive, but they were loud. Vincent Trocheck, JT Miller, Zach Werenski, 3 guys that had very quiet production that helped the team win. And I think that goes to show you what kind of person, what kind of player Trocheck is. Trocheck doesn't give a fuck if he gets 10 points in the game.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like his willingness to buy in to whatever system or whatever the team needs. I think that's invaluable to a team.
If he goes, now I'm going to list off some teams here. Not saying he's going to go to them, but if he goes to like Tampa Bay or Carolina or Colorado, or I'll throw Buffalo in there too.
I think Buffalo should be interested in him.
Yeah, they should be interested in him. If he goes to one of those teams and the team and the coach is like, all right, listen, what we're gonna have you do here is play in the third line.
Isn't Minnesota rumored to be very
Yeah,
heavily
Minnesota as well. Minnesota is
interested?
pushing hard.
Yeah.
And if those teams go to Trocheck after they acquire him, it's like, listen, we're going to ask you to be a third-line center role, defensive zone guy, penalty kill guy, be out there for big defensive moments. Trocheck's like, let's fucking get this shit going. Like, that's the type of player and person he is, and I think a lot of teams will love to have his
Is
personality.
Bill Guerin just to make the Minnesota Wild Team USA?
I guess so. This offseason is going to call Florida about
Matthew Tkachuk. Good luck with that.
I know. I mean, fuck it. Jack Hughes is going over to Minnesota, too. Why not? You know, future U.S. Olympian Luke Hughes as well, you know.
Crazy thought here. I think there's a higher chance that the Hughes brothers end up playing together in Minnesota than New Jersey.
At this rate, yeah.
Crazy thought right now.
If New Jersey keeps sliding down and Minnesota is trending up,
I think it would be a mistake. I think Quinn will stay long term in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think him leaving he fits in so well there, and he's been so good.
Looks like he's having fun now.
Yeah, I think I'd be shocked if he didn't re-sign long term with the Wild this summer.
If he doesn't re-sign long term with the Wild, if we're sitting here because he has one more year left on his deal, so he has one more year left on his deal. If he doesn't sign an extension within the first week of July 1st or whatever, I would be like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, no, I'd be shocked if he didn't sign a long-term extension.
Two more guys we have left here on the list. Number one, Shane Wright and Ryan O'Reilly. Here are our last three remaining guys. Obviously, there's a ton more guys, but we've talked about Shane Wright, what was it, maybe a month ago, right before the Olympic break when we kind of did our first trade board here. Shane Wright is a guy who can provide the third line center role for a team. I think Seattle would be very, very, very in the wrong if they ended up trading Shane Wright.
Well, the issue with Shane Wright, I think, in Seattle has been opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is just they have so many young centers on that team. They have Matty Beniers, and Chandler Stevens should be their top two centers.
Yep.
Then they've been drafting nothing but centers recently.
How you doing?
Cat and Berkeley, Shane Wright, of course. Who's the guy they just drafted this year? He's a center as well. Jake O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been drafting. Jagger Furcus too is another. I know he's a winger. Never mind. But they've been drafting a lot of centers.
Yes.
A lot of good young centers. And I think if he had an opportunity to go to a team where he'd be able to get a little bit more ice time, a little bit more opportunity, I think he'd flourish.
I think you would flourish in a perfect second-line center role who gets power play 1 or power play 2 minutes, a guy who's a little bit more important to the team. And Shane Wright thrives with opportunity. We saw it. Hold on. I got to pull it up here real quick.
Like this Shane Wright trade for me would make sense for a team that's might be towards the bottom of the standings right now, where because if a team like Colorado traded for him, just for an example,
they don't have use for him.
He'd be in their bottom 6. He'd be buried in the lineup, right?
I have a thought here.
Yeah.
There's two teams, both in the Western Conference. Actually, I'll do 3 teams. One in the 2 in the East, 2 in the West. Now we'll go 4 teams. The East teams that I would like to see trade for Shane Wright, whether they have assets or not. Just an idea here: Pittsburgh and Boston, and then teams in the West: San Jose and Anaheim.
I don't think Anaheim needs him.
Interesting.
San Jose, I think he would be a great 2C behind Celebrini, but they also have Michael Misa.
Yeah. I mean, Misa can also play left.
I'm going to throw out there Chicago.
I like Chicago. They could definitely use him as a pure second-line center behind Bedard.
Yeah, because I think Frank Nazar, he's getting better too,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think any of these bottom towards the bottom of the league standings, what teams would really benefit. I think Philly would be a really good pickup for Philadelphia.
Shane Wright's a guy who, if you're looking for a younger player in your top 6 to kind of help build out your core, you go out and get him.
Because I think in return, I don't think it would be multiple first-round picks or something like that. I think for a player like Shane Wright in return, I think they'd want a good young defenseman and draft picks.
Yeah, they need,
because that's what Seattle needs right now is defensemen. I think they have plenty of young forwards. That's all they really have been drafting.
Yeah.
They need good young defensemen.
I mean, the youngest, outside of Riker Evans, who's 24 years old, the youngest players on their blue line are 27, and there's two players. And you have Ron Lindgren, who's 28, but he is not so great. And everybody
Like their
else
number
is,
one defenseman right now is Brandon Montour.
yes. And you have Vince Dunn, who's solid, too.
Yeah.
And after that, it just falls off a fucking cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a team that is in a situation where, okay, you have two solid defensemen, but after that, it's not great. And after that, it's not super young. Riker Evans is a solid third pair defenseman on a lot of teams, but he's not a second pair defenseman like he is on Seattle. And I think that's where you run into the issue. You need two more. I think if this team got two more solid second pair defensemen, it would be a much better situation than they are now. And now, do I think they lack that pure elite defenseman? Absolutely. But also, Vince Dunn and Brandon Montour are not two slouches, right? They are very, like I said, solid defensemen.
No, Vince Dunn's a really good defenseman. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a top pair defenseman. I think on almost any team.
I mean, he's a very good offensive and puck moving defenseman for a lot of teams. Next guy here, last guy, Ryan O'Reilly, who I briefly mentioned, he is in a weird situation because this isn't like a lot of these other situations. He's gonna be a pure cup contender, like player that goes out and gets them just to improve their face-off percentages and defensive percentages, and he's not going to potentially light the lamp, but a guy who just
he's still really good in the face-off dot.
That presence.
Yeah, he's having a decent season still this year. He's 57 points in 59 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's averaging 20 minutes on ice per night.
He's a huge reason on how and why Nashville has gotten back into it, and now they sit 3 points out.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Nashville traded him. He would be really good center depth for almost any team in the league.
He has a year left at $3.5 million.
$4.5.
$4.5. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. That's still a very attractive deal here for a lot of teams.
For like a second or third line center on a good team, yes, that's 100% worth it.
Let's take a look
Because
here.
like I just want to name a couple of players that I think are for sure going to be traded that we didn't cover. I think Blake Coleman in Calgary will be traded. Bobby McCann out of Toronto. He's going to be a pure rental. Toronto, they got their butts slapped by Ottawa last night.
Yeah.
They're not making the playoffs.
No pride. They're on like a 2% chance now.
So that makes sense to get some assets back for Toronto. I think there's a really good chance Ristolainen is traded out of Philadelphia. I think those are some of the really obvious ones to jump off the board to me. I think Toronto, like Scott Lawton, I think would be a good move candidate for Toronto to move as well. I think Toronto is going to be a bit of a seller.
I think Toronto will sell off a couple of pieces at least.
Like if you're Toronto, any player that's like a UFA, you should be taking calls about trading.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of these other guys too on TSN's trade board. I mean, I think Zach Whitecloud could be a guy out of Calgary, $2.75 million with the year.
Calgary should be taking calls on almost everybody.
Yeah, and then the only guy they won't be taking calls on, I feel like, is Jonathan Huberdeau because that contract is unmovable.
Yes.
So, and obviously Dustin Wolf, but this trade deadline is going to be interesting. I'm going to see it as two things. Either A, we're going to see almost every single trade happen on fucking Thursday, and then Friday is going to be like trading for, I don't know, a fourth line forward for a 6th-round pick, or it's going to be all chaos on Friday.
I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a boring deadline. The players that are available aren't really that interesting. I think teams... If you look at the top teams in the league, I think there's less pure buyers than I think there typically are. I'd say there's probably only 3 or 4 teams I would really put into true, like, we're going to buy.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $30 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for gambling problems. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. Must be the age of 21 years or older. Age and eligibility vary by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after assurance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos for details. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only. Auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
All right, quick timeout before we get back to the action. This episode is brought to you by W Energy. Listen, hockey's fast, and whether you're breaking down plays, yelling shoot from the couch, or just getting in a workout, you've got to stay sharp. That's where W comes in. Clean energy with zero sugar, no crash, no artificial flavors or dyes. Just 150 milligrams of caffeine per serving, about 2 cups of coffee's worth to keep you locked in and ready to go. Personally, I use W before the gym, on the ice, and even when prepping content for the pod. If you need that extra spark, whether you're grinding through work, lifting, or lacing up the skates, W's got you covered. Head over to w.gg and use code CFBPOD for 10% off your order. That's w.gg, code CFBPOD for 10% off your order. Fuel up, stay locked in, and let's get back to the episode.
And I think that's a good way to segment into that and who we think are buyers. So we're going to do buyers, sellers, and people who we think shouldn't really do anything right now. And so we'll start with buyers, and I think the most obvious one is the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, Oilers are a team that has to improve any sort of way, depth-wise, because we've seen the Oilers the last 2 seasons specifically, especially this season, their depth has gone down the fucking
It's gotten
drain.
worse since they made the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago.
Yeah. And a guy who, if you 50% retain or move out some salary, whatever, a guy who I think would be valuable to this team is fucking Ryan O'Reilly.
I think anyone that could bring offensive game to secondary offensive scoring to the Oilers would be invaluable. Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly would make a lot of sense. He can play that second or third line center role. He can provide depth scoring. Good face-off guy. Mm-hmm. It's just with Edmonton, like the clock's ticking, I think, on Connor McDavid. You know, you got 2 more years left after this before he potentially walks. I think he wants to see what the team does. Their cup window is right now. We have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in the prime of their careers. You have to win now.
And
they're
already 28, 29 years old. They're getting up there where sooner rather than later, you'll be looking back and being like, we just fucked that shit up.
Well, people are starting to make the Connor McDavid, Josh Allen comparisons.
Yeah,
they're like, they're great, but they can never win.
Yeah, I saw that.
There was a really interesting question I saw. Someone asked McDavid the other day at a media scrum, and he didn't answer the question because it was a stupid question. Or it was like, when you look at like other guys in the league, like, Sidney Crosby and stuff like that, who didn't win their first time, and they it kind of just happened. It worked out for them to win the Stanley Cup or gold medals. Like, do you see that happening to you? And he's like, next question.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing there?
And another.
What are we doing there?
And then another question. Somebody asked Macklin Celebrini if he would like to be on the Olympic team in 2030 again. He was like,
yeah? Why wouldn't he?
Yes. And everybody started laughing, but I can tell Celebrini is like, are you fucking dumb?
Yeah, why wouldn't he want to be on the Olympic team? You ask any NHL player, they'd love to be on their Olympic team.
You could have asked the guy, how was the experience in Italy, or how did something about?
Well, even guys that weren't on the team, like they have no shot at making the Olympic team. They're like, oh yeah, I'd love to play for my country. What are they gonna say? No,
fucking. And then you ask Connor McDavid if he thinks that he's gonna end up winning at all. You ask Celebrini if he would like to be on the Olympics. Are we?
What are we doing here? I mean, I know it's just a couple of dumb questions, but
another team we have on the list, Tampa Bay Lightning, who I've talked about on every single player. This is the team that's going to be in on every single player. I think they could definitely use some depth forward-wise, defensively, to kind of help shore out and maybe go get a 3rd Stanley Cup championship here in this decade. This
is a team that just won't go away, man. No. Like, it looked like after their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final appearance, they made the playoffs every year since then. But they've been first round exits, I believe, every year, right?
Were they last season too?
Yes,
they were. Okay.
I believe they lost to Florida.
Yeah, they did.
Got their butts beat, I believe.
Smoked.
Yeah. So like this is a team that's like, okay, they're getting older. They're starting to show some signs of wear and tear, especially with Vasilevsky. His last couple of years has kind of been down, and then all of a sudden they're back. They're back this year.
Vasilevsky.
Kucherov's having an MVP caliber season. Vasilevsky is the Vezina favorite right now.
Yeah.
What the hell? Where did Darren Radich come from?
I mean, pending UFA.
Yeah, he's gonna get
paid.
He's making $975,000 this year.
He's gonna get paid.
He's gonna be getting like at least 7.5.
I mean, their depth has stepped up too a little bit, and I still think they can add to it. Like you said, Kucherov he's putting up records still. Hart Trophy season. Gensel is needed to play some center.
They're starting to get healthy now. Braden Point just came back not too long ago.
Since December 1st, they have been the best team in hockey record-wise. And I know there's a couple teams that aren't far behind them, but per record and points percentage, they have been the best team in the league. And this is a team that, if they add another guy or two, they could easily make it out of the Eastern Conference and get back to another Stanley Cup championship. And I think that's where Tampa Bay and Carolina are two teams that are kind of on a crash course right now to meet in the Eastern Conference Finals, unless you have a team like Montreal or Buffalo crash the party and say not so fucking fast. But that's a conversation for a different day. Tampa Bay is a team that will be buying.
They're going to be buying until they're like Kucherov and Vasilevsky. Those guys are retired.
Yes, they will be buying until they literally.
But they don't really have any draft picks, good draft picks left. They don't have a first-round pick this year or next year. So they have the 2028 draft pick available to send. They have all their second-round picks for the next 3 years.
Tampa Bay is going to make a trade at the deadline, and I guarantee you it's
when was the last time they made a first-round pick? Like, genuinely asking. I have no idea.
I don't know, actually. That's a great question.
I'm going to look that up real quick.
Tampa Bay is a team that, at this trade deadline, they could go out and trade a 2028 first-round pick, a 2026 second-round pick, and like a 2027 fourth-round pick for a guy that is going to play on their third line. They don't give a fuck about draft picks. They will trade every single draft pick right now for winning a Stanley Cup. And I think most teams in Stanley Cups.
2022 when they drafted Isaac Howard. And then they traded him. Yep.
So there you go. Tampa Bay, they don't give a fuck about draft picks. Another team on our list here is the Minnesota Wild out of the Western Conference. A team that went out and got Quinn Hughes. They are one of the best teams in the league.
Man, what a trade that's been for them, man. Oh.
They traded essentially 4 first-round picks for him. Quinn Hughes.
But he's been so
He's
good.
been back to his former self. He is the best defenseman in the league since arriving in Minnesota, and he has been everything that they've ever asked for. And now Bill Guerin is going to buy even more. He's trying to make more moves, really push for a Stanley Cup for the Minnesota Wild team.
I mean, they're in the division of death, I would say, right now, where they're essentially, they still have a chance to win the division. I don't think they will, but they're essentially locked into a first-round series against Dallas.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think right now, if you're Minnesota, you're doing whatever you can to get ready for that because that's a really tough first-round matchup.
That matchup's going to be so tough, and it sucks because I think both teams are Stanley Cup contenders, and one of them will be first-round exits.
It's ridiculous, though, because like they're the top 3 teams, essentially, the top 3 teams in their conference, and two of them are going to have to play each other in the first round. It's ridiculous.
I could go to town discussing about how this playoff format is the fucking worst format in all of sports. I can go to town. I'm not going to do it because
the 7 seed in NFL is pretty bad.
Yeah, because the 7 seed genuinely gets fucking killed every game. Except, well, of course, the Packers ended up beating the Cowboys.
It was the Cowboys, though.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't count.
I mean, that's bad, but I still hate the fact that, okay, building rivalries is okay, right? But we see every other single format, right? It's like if you get the highest seed, right? And now it happens in this format too, right? But when you get the highest seed, you get the reward of playing the lowest seed, right? It's the easiest matchup. But you don't see a lot of second seeds in the conference play the third or fourth or fifth best team in the conference.
Actually, it's happened a lot in the last few years. That's why a lot of people have this issue.
Yeah, I mean, you always see it happen in at least one division.
Yeah, that's why people have had a big issue with it, is because it has happened too often.
It happens too often. And now if it happened once every few years, I think people would be like, okay, it's not as bad. You would still see people calling for it because I still think it's absolutely dumb. I want to see the 2 best teams in the conference finals. Now, it's not always going to be the 1 and 2 seed in the conference finals, even if you did 1 and 8. But you can see some more upsets, right? You can like what was it? LA in 2012 were like the
They were
7th
the
or 8th
8th seed.
eighth
Yeah.
seed, and they ended up winning. So
Yeah, the whole incentive for like playing well in the regular season is you're supposed to get an easier matchup in the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? That's the whole idea. It's like, well, if you finish second place in your conference, you'll play the second worst team in your conference to make the playoff.
You want to know how much of a difference this is for Minnesota? So right now, if the playoffs started, they would be playing Dallas. If it was 1 through 8, they would be playing Utah and cruise to a second round berth.
Yeah, be completely different.
Yeah.
But that's how it is now. I can't see the NHL changing it anytime soon.
No, they're not going to. And Gary Bettman has said that they don't plan on changing it anytime soon either.
And so then our last team we have listed as a buyer, and I don't think this is a surprise either, is the Carolina Hurricanes. If you look at the way the league is shaking out this year, especially in the Eastern Conference, if there was a year for them to make it out of the Eastern Conference and go to the Stanley Cup Final, it's this year.
It's this year. Their division is fucking weak.
They should have a free walk to the conference final.
Yes, their division and wild card is absolutely weak. And in the Atlantic, maybe if one team has a shot, I think is Tampa Bay.
Well, in the Atlantic, I think it's going to be a bit of a battle whoever comes out of there because you have Tampa, Buffalo, Montreal, and Detroit. Technically, Boston. I think Boston's a bit of a longer shot to make it in the top 3 in that division, but Detroit, like and that 2 and 3 matchup, whether it's Buffalo, Montreal, Detroit, like any of those 3 teams, that's going to be an absolute battle. And that 4th team might have to play. Will probably play Tampa Bay because I think Carolina's going to win I think Carolina has a really good chance to win the Eastern Conference
by a slim margin too.
Yeah.
By a slim margin.
So you can potentially have 6. You could have. I think you're probably going to end up having 5 Atlantic teams.
I mean,
in the playoffs. I mean, Washington, but they played 3 more games than the Bruins.
That is true.
That's my biggest thing with Washington is that for some reason the whole season they've played way more games than everybody else.
They've played 62 games the most out of anybody in the league.
Yeah. I mean, Columbus, they've lost a couple since coming back from the break. Ottawa's starting to play a little bit better, so is Philly. But
I'm just saying, though, I do believe in the Atlantic, and I know I'm getting away from the Hurricanes here, who I think I'll talk about the Hurricanes real quick while we're on them. The Hurricanes are a team that we've seen them, like I said earlier in the episode, swing for the fences, right? And Tusky he wants to go out and win a Stanley Cup badly.
Can you imagine this team if they had Nico Rantanen, though? Like, how good they'd be?
They would be really good. I mean, he didn't work out in Carolina. He went to Dallas.
He made the best out of it. I thought Stankoven was he's been a good, solid addition for the Hurricanes. He's not Mikko Rantanen, obviously, but I think they did the best they could in that situation.
And I think if they go out and, like we said, get a guy like Trocheck, I think that's all they really need to do. I mean, this team it needs to find players that fit their system, fits their mold. They're not a team that is going to beat you with speed up and down the ice for 60 minutes.
They're going to suffocate you.
They're going to suffocate you defensively. They're going to get shots on net. They're going to get dirty goals. And then what they do best more than any other team in the league, in my opinion, is capitalize on other teams' mistakes. Mm-hmm. They force you to make a mistake. They're very patient. And then they jump on you the second they see you fuck up. And then all of a sudden it's in the back of the net. Now Carolina's up 2-0. We saw it last season for a little bit in the playoffs too, where Carolina would capitalize on a lot of teams' mistakes, and all of a sudden they would go up 2-0 early. We even saw it against Florida, where they ended up shutting out the Panthers in that series that Florida kind of ran away with in the Eastern Conference Finals. But we saw them in that game. Aho ended up scoring 2 goals in that game early in the first period, and all of a sudden the Florida Panthers backs up against the wall. We've seen that a lot this season too, where not only are they capitalizing on teams' mistakes, but also Bussy has been a generational fucking waiver pickup to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's kind of came out of nowhere. They rewarded him with a contract extension. I think if he would have waited a little bit longer to sign that extension, he probably would have got a bit more money.
Just a little bit. But you know what? When you're a guy like Bussy, if they offer you something...
Oh, he's 27. He's never really stuck around anywhere. This is his first time playing in the NHL.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So what a I think I'm going to sneeze.
Go ahead. I mean, what a pickup that's been for, they're coming out?
I don't fucking know.
Okay. What a pickup Bussy's been for Carolina, though. Bless you. Bless you. What a pickup bust he's been. In Carolina, they don't need to do much at the deadline, but again, go out and go be a buyer.
If Carolina went and did nothing, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing.
I don't think they're going to do nothing. I think they're at least I think Logan Stanley would be a good pickup for them too, like anybody like that. But they should absolutely be buyers. If there was a year for them to win the Stanley Cup, or at least make it to the Stanley Cup final, it's this year.
This year.
No Panthers, no boogeyman right now.
Nope.
So that's been their Achilles heel. The last 3 years has been the Carolina.
Yep.
I
guess they have been their own Achilles.
The Florida Panthers. I was about to say the Carolina Panthers. The Florida Panthers.
I thought you were going to say the Carolina Hurricanes.
No, they haven't been able to fucking score.
No, they haven't been.
But Florida has been a pain in their side for the last 3 years.
Yes, they have been. You know what, Florida, you want to know something? Florida is that team that they haven't been able to get past, and guess what? They're fucking gone.
No one has, so.
Yeah, that's true. All right, teams that we think should hold the fort. And now, I don't agree with this first team because I know they're going to be aggressive, but I get where you're coming from with it, are the Sabres.
How aggressive are they going to be, though? Like, what are they looking to add?
I think that they're looking to add anywhere that improves their roster. And by aggressive, I think that they will make a few trades. And of course, they're not going to go out. They don't need a guy like, the big fish like Robert Thomas or Steven Stamkos or any of those guys, right? But do you go inquire about Trocheck or O'Reilly or,
O'Reilly's not coming back to Buffalo.
PTSD type shit.
Yeah, no, he's not coming back to. He's gonna walk into the locker room and this is a drop his shit and say like, what am I doing?
Why did I wave the company?
And it's like, I lost my love of the game here.
I think
I ran into a Tim Hortons here.
Wait, what?
You never heard about that?
About how he crashed into Tim Hortons?
Yeah.
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah.
I think it was in Canada, but it was when he was on the Sabres.
But yeah, so Buffalo is a team that they're going to be looking to add, but also if they hold, though, if they hold, I think it's much better than if they go out and overpay for a rental or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm stressing the most about the Sabres. Like, if you want to make a couple additions, that's fine. And by hold the fort, I don't mean, like, don't do anything.
Okay.
Like, don't go and trade your first-round pick.
Right.
Like, don't be that aggressive.
You're not a Stanley Cup contender yet.
Yeah, like, still hold on to some draft assets. Don't go and trade some of your top prospects.
I would say if
Make smart, calculated moves. Don't go out and get the big fish.
And, I agree with you to an extent there. When it comes to trading, like, Rosen or not Austin.
They're not trading Austin.
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm so used to him being a prospect.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Like, when it comes to, like, Rosen or your other prospects, your first-round pick, the only way you trade those is for a premium, like, NHL elite talent, right?
Yeah. And I don't really think there's any of that really available right now at this deadline, so.
And on top of it, too, we know the Sabres on paper, they're really good. But, like, for example, you can easily upgrade a guy on the first line over Krebs. But you know what? Krebs fits perfectly on that first line, so why fuck with that right now?
What first-line players are available that aren't going to cost the sun and the moon, though?
That's where maybe a first-round pick in Rosen comes into play.
Yeah, I'm on the Sabres. I'm not. I wouldn't necessarily be against trading Rosen. I'm not trading like premium first-round picks right now.
I would. Okay, I guess when it comes to first-round picks, I would either wait a year or I wait to see how the season goes.
The Sabres, I think they need to add is depth defenseman.
I have a guy.
A bottom six forward and a bottom pair defenseman.
I have a guy in mind that I wrote an article on that I think would be a perfect fit for this team, and that is Logan Stanley.
Yeah, but I think there's gonna be a bidding war for him. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean.
Because that cap hits so low, like that production to payment value, like it's so good.
And he's a big physical defenseman who has provided some offensive upside.
Yeah,
this year.
like you want to, if you're intent on having a deep playoff run, you need guys that aren't afraid to be physical, and he's one of them.
And you know what? I think that he is a guy that if the Sabres go out and get Logan Stanley or bring back Tyler Myers, this is a team that is.
I'd rather have them get Stanley than Myers.
I would rather have Stanley too. But just a big-bodied physical defenseman in general. That is the Sabres telling me that they expect to win at least the first-round series.
I mean, we'll see who they match up against. I think them, Montreal, will be a ton of fun.
Me too. I think there is only one team right now. If they went in the first-round matchup, they wouldn't come out. Carolina.
Yeah. The Sabres, for some reason, like the last 10 years, have played like absolutely dog shit in Carolina.
I don't think we've won a game in Carolina in the last 10 years.
No, we haven't. Like for some reason, like they play decent against them in Buffalo, but in Carolina, for some reason, they always play like shit. Or they get like they played this year. Brandon Bussey had like the game of his life.
I mean, he had multiple saves where the Sabres should have won that game like 5-2.
Yeah, he had no business making some of the saves that he made.
It was insane. But yeah, Buffalo is a team that they're gonna make a few trades, but also if they hold pat, okay, you know what? I'll take it over overpaying. The next team here on our list, the Anaheim Ducks, a team that desperately cannot give up any future assets for.
Dude, this
anything.
team's such a good spot right now. Like they've been slowly building so many young assets over the last few years, and now they're all finally starting to show up. How about Beckett Seneca? What a rookie season he's having.
Beckett Seneca is a dark horse right now. Obviously, it's going to be Matthew Schaefer, but a dark horse candidate.
But he's been he leads the league right now in rookie points. He's been a kind of under the radar guy going into the season and he's been almost a point per game player for Anaheim. And then you have guys like Cutter Gauthier too, who's been awesome. They got to get him extended this summer. He's going to get a big long-term big boy contract, but. This team, there's a lot to like about this team. They took a gamble trading for Chris Kreider, and it looks like they won that bet. He's returned to a bit of form. He has 20 goals this year. He's been better than he was last year in New York, but he's also not being asked to do what he did in New York.
No, he's not. I mean, he's just playing it really, really well. Anaheim, they have a great future. Don't fuck it up. I legit don't.
Leo Carlson too. Like he's gonna get paid a shitload of money this offseason.
If you're yes, Leo Carlson's been a stud. If you're Anaheim, I don't really want to see them make a ton of.
Anaheim is another team I would trade for like a veteran defenseman.
Probably at most.
Yeah. That forward wise, I don't really think you need to shake anything up. I think just keep letting your players develop.
Just keep letting them play, keep letting them just have fun out there. And defensively, could they use some help? Absolutely. I think they do lack a little bit of depth, but just don't trade any future assets for anything, in my opinion. If I'm Anaheim, you're in a good spot. You're 3 points back of Vegas in the Pacific Division. You're scoring goals. You're winning hockey games. They've won 4 straight here, 8-2 in their last 10. They've been a very up and down team all season.
Yeah, well, it looked like a couple months ago their season was almost over. They were had a losing record. They'd gone on a huge losing streak, and they've been playing really, really well lately.
Yeah.
So credit to them. Coach Q might be a dark horse candidate for the Jack Adams. I think what he's done, I think what him and Lindy Ruff have done in Buffalo has been so impressive. The turnaround they've had.
Yep.
I still think it's John Cooper's award to lose.
I agree. I think John Cooper.
Yeah, but Coach Q might get some. He'll get some votes for sure.
He should. The next team here up on our whole list are the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is a team I don't want to say they're.
I really don't know what to. I really don't. Yeah, I don't know what to make of them.
I think they have some core pieces, but also I think there aren't really a ton of guys that they can necessarily sell off, which is part of the reason why they are on hold. They got off to a really rough start. They've been kind of hovering just above 500 for about the last 2 months or so and are kind of in the mix of things. They're 66 points. They're 5 points back of the Bruins there for the last wildcard spot in the East. And I'm with you. I don't know what to make of them. I just say stand pat, see what the offseason and rest of the season brings you, and kind of make some offseason moves. This is a team that might end up changing up the roster a little bit once the heart of the offseason is here, around the draft, around free agency, around July, and I think that's the right move for Columbus. They missed the playoffs by just a few points last season. They didn't really go out, make a ton of additions. Of course, they added Miles Warner and Charlie Coyle. But other than that, though, I think Columbus is in the right mindset here. But also, I want to see them be.
Yeah, because they already kind of did make a couple moves to buy earlier in the season. I think one a lot of people forget about is Mason Marchment.
Yep.
Where they gave up a second round pick for him. I think a second and a fourth.
A premium. Yeah, some decent assets.
And to their credit, he's been a point per game player since he got to Columbus. Wouldn't shock me if they try to extend him. I think he would be a coveted free agent in the UFA market for sure. Because this is a team that a month ago looked dead. They were one of the worst teams in the conference, and all of a sudden they went on that crazy winning streak, and now they're within striking distance of a playoff spot. I still think they need a lot to go their way to get in.
I mean, they went on a 9-game winning streak, and all of a sudden their season was saved, and now they completely have a chance to sneak in as a second wild card seed, as long as they don't end up skidding here. Because I think that's where Columbus can get into an issue where, if they don't, let's say they don't add really anything at the deadline, and all of a sudden it follows up with like a 3-4 game losing streak, your season's over, in my opinion. Because the rest of the East, it feels like every time it's in conference games, it goes to fucking overtime.
Well, that's been the thing is like the teams ahead of them keep winning, right?
Yeah.
Like the Islanders are on a 4-game heater right now. Pittsburgh's been more competitive than they thought without Sidney Crosby.
Yep.
They ended up losing to the Rangers yesterday, but they won their first game without Crosby. I think the team that is primed to be caught is the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, I mean, on the road, the Bruins haven't been great. At home, it's a completely different story. And I think it's really between Capitals, Blue Jackets, and even Senators can catch the Boston Bruins here. And I think Columbus is a team that if they go on another 4 or 5 game winning streak, they can find themselves
Oh, for sure.
really in there.
If they go on another 5-game winning streak, they might be in a playoff spot at the end of that 5-game winning streak.
And they might end up holding on to that thing. You never know. So if I'm Columbus, I just want to see where the season go. And the last team, were you going to say something? Okay. The last team here, I have Detroit. Detroit's another team that I think shouldn't really add a ton with. I think they're in the same situation.
I would add defensemen.
I think they're in the same spot in Buffalo where don't give up any premium future assets just to go out and get a guy who's going to be on your roster.
Steve Yzerman historically hasn't. So I'm not expecting him to make a big splash move. I think he believes in his core. I would just add some defensemen because I think that blue line is that team's Achilles heel right now.
It is. Outside of like 2 or 3 guys, it just hasn't really been super good. They could definitely add a depth forward or 2 as well. But outside of that, they shouldn't really add a ton. I mean, they could go out and get a second pair of defensemen or a third pair of defensemen to definitely help them. But if they expect to win a playoff series this season, which I would expect to if I'm Detroit, go out and just make a few additions to kind of show the team that, okay, like we want to go out and be competitive in the playoffs this year and make the playoffs at that.
Well, let's move on to Sellers. I don't think these are going to really surprise anybody.
Nope.
Because we were looking at the standings yesterday. We were like, what teams like do we truly think should be complete? Like blow it up. Let's start over. And we only could really think of 3 teams that jumped off the page to us.
Yup.
And the first team is the Vancouver Canucks. That's not a surprise. They've already been sellers for the last little bit.
Fire sale if you're the Canucks.
As soon as they traded Quinn Hughes, they signaled to me, he's like, yeah, we're rebuilding.
Hold on. I'm going to pull up their cap wages because I think Vancouver could be one of the teams that actually trades away the most players. We have heard Elias Pettersson in rumors. We have heard Brock Besser, Jake DeBrusk, Connor Garland. Who else? We have also heard Tyler Myers, as we discussed. Elias Pettersson, the defenseman. My bad, guys. I
don't think they could trade Elias Pettersson forward.
Sorry, I kind of forgot about Elias Pettersson, the defenseman.
Why do they have 2 guys in their team named Elias Pettersson? What are the fucking odds?
They also have a prospect named Elias Pettersson.
What the fuck? I was like, well, one of them's got to be good, right? We'll just keep drafting him.
But this is a team that will end up probably selling off some players. Not probably, they will.
Oh yeah, for sure. They should be selling almost anybody they can get good picks for. The next team I have as a seller, and this is another one surprise, is the Calgary Flames, where everyone's expecting them to pretty much make everybody on the roster available outside of a couple of players.
Yeah.
I've even heard Mackenzie Weegar's name being thrown around in trade rumors. Be a little bit more surprised that he got traded, but
yeah, I've heard Mackenzie Weegar is more of a 65 to 35 or 70-30 split in favor of getting traded or not getting traded. But of course, it's never that he's not going to get traded. There is a chance that he gets traded, but also there is a chance that he stays as well. Vancouver. Calgary is a team that's going to sell off pieces. Like this is a team that they're in a prime spot to retool, not completely rebuild, but retool. Get rid of some of those older players on those bigger contracts to a contending team, even if you do retain get a little bit of salary off the books and go from there, retool. And if they can retool and they play their cards right, in 3 years, they can be back to a contending team.
Because I'm just looking at their guys, like their roster right now, who they could potentially trade, like Kadri, Blake Coleman, Ryan Lomberg, I think will get traded.
Zach Whitecloud.
I think almost anyone would be available for the right price, but
I mean, like you look at Calgary's situation as well too. They're getting assets. They got 2 first round picks from Vegas. One of them in the I believe the Zach Whitecloud trade for
Rasmus Anderson.
They also got a first round pick for Noah Hannafin a couple of years ago as well. So Calgary's in a position here. The last team, again, no surprise. They literally came out and said
a letter
the New
to
York
their
Rangers.
fans saying that.
The fucking New York Rangers, a team that's going to end up selling.
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about Vintage Trocheck. It's probably going to be traded. He's really the only one that jumps off the page to me like an obvious candidate.
I have heard Braden Schneider could be a guy. Who else? There's one other guy. I'm trying to get his name. No, hold on. Is he?
Well, because they already traded like the big guy.
Brennan Ottman is a guy who I can see them trading, who is so a prospect for the Rangers, 23 years old. But there's a couple players that could end up. They could sell off a couple of guys, in my opinion. And we talked about this, what was it, like a month ago, where anybody 24, 25 or younger, don't trade. Anybody older than that is free dibs as long as you can get rid of them, except for like Mika Zibanejad and JT Miller. Who both have 5 years left at $8.5 and $8 million respectively. So that's really about it. Any last thoughts here going into the trade deadline?
I hope it's exciting because I feel like the last few have been duds. Trade deadline is always something I've really looked forward to. Exciting, but exciting news. It's going to be a little different this year with the Sabres not being complete dog shit and not being sellers for the first time in like a century.
I am actually kind of excited for the trade deadline for the Sabres specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at odds. Like, I'm just going to talk from a Sabres fan's perspective right now. We haven't been good in such a long time, and I don't know. The idea of us being playoff contenders is still kind of weird to me.
The idea that after the game against the Lightning last
week, we spanked them.
That I went into our chat and I said the only team that I can see beating the Sabres in the series right now are the Hurricanes. That was like music to my fucking ears when I said that out loud to myself.
Yeah, it
feels surreal.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to completely spank the Lightning yesterday either.
When we went up 1-0, I'm like, all right, there we go, 2-0 right after that. It's fucking, and then 3-0. I'm like, in the first period.
I got nervous after Tampa made it 4-1. I was like, this is gonna be the Colorado game again, isn't it? And then we scored to make it 5-1. I was like, okay, no, this is a different fucking team.
And as each minute ticked down, I'm like, all right, I can handle this. We don't have to score another.
Yeah, outside of they scored a power play goal. That was an impressive play by Bjorkstrand to be able to kick that as he was falling. That was clearly a kicking motion, but like that was low key impressive.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
Falling back, and first off, that was a great play by Beck Malistine. But second, Bjorkstrand though, to be able to direct that puck in. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what that hit at first. I didn't see Bjorkstrand like falling down when watching the play. I thought he had a stick on it and then fell down. And then they showed the replay. Yeah. They were like going to the box.
If his foot just would have gone down, it would have been fine. It would have his foot, but the way he kicked it up, it was clear a kicking motion.
He kicked it forward and towards the net.
Sabres getting calls with them 2 games in a row. That BS goaltender interference challenge by the Panthers. And then that one, what world are we living in where the Sabres are winning those kinds of things?
You know what? As long as we get on, I'm happy. That's all I care about. Although part of me wants to see us win at least a playoff.
Why not, dude? Why not? We can handle Montreal. We can handle Detroit.
We can handle any team except Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina, I would not want to play at all.
No. One last thing here to end it off is that Kevin Adams, GM of the year.
He low-key cooked.
He did. He just didn't have the assertiveness to really put pressure on them.
The GM doesn't really affect how the team plays, though. He's not in the locker room between games.
Oh, of course. But the way that Kekalainen came in and said everybody's expendable in here, I think lit a fire under their ass. Where Kevin Adams couldn't sit there and be like, all right, I know
you want to be in Buffalo? Here's an 8-year contract.
Yeah, there you go.
You said the magic words.
There you go. So that's all I got, though.
But no, he low-key made some like really smart trades. Like if anything, this might help him get another GM job somewhere else, or at least a front office job.
I know you've mentioned Nashville in the past.
No, I think Chris has, not me.
Oh, Chris has. Either way, Nashville, solid job for him. Even if it's assistant GM too.
Yeah, like I said, just a front office job because I think it would have been pretty easy to write off. The Sabres would have like continued that downward trajectory like this year. It's like, oh, that was a mistake. He'll never be a GM again. And then they're like, oh, like because Yarmo hasn't made any roster moves.
No, the only thing he's done is made internal moves with sending players up and down.
Yeah, and just some front office staff changes, which shouldn't affect really the play on the ice.
It doesn't.
So through and through, this is pretty much Kevin Adams' team. Like Yarmo said he was going to make trades, but then the team started playing really well. I was like, I'm not going to fuck this up.
And he was talking to Edmonton serious talks about Lyon when he first became GM.
That would have been a huge
And then
mistake.
Lyon went on a heater, and then Kekalainen backed out.
Oh, yeah. That might be the signing of the offseason was Alex Lyon.
Oh, it was. And you want to know something? The Josh Stone trade, too? Fucking. You know what's crazy about that, too, is that Kessering was the main player in that deal, and he's dealt with injury issues and poor play.
You're talking about Peterka?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you said Norris.
Oh, I meant Kessering. Sorry. I said Kessering. The Kessering was.
I could have sworn you said something about Josh Norris, but.
No. I mean, Josh Norris has been. Whenever.
Oh, right now that trade is the Peterka Doan trade. Like,
yes.
Kesselring's the extra guy.
Yes, he is. And Norris has been every bit as good for the Sabres. He's elite if he stays on the ice.
Yeah, that's been his issue. Is not he can't stay fucking healthy. What is that dude like? Literally have like glass bones.
Every time he gets hit, I'm afraid he's gonna.
I think it's like that character from SpongeBob. That's like I have glass bones and paper skin.
That dude in SpongeBob that is like just always like wrapped up in the
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Josh Stone got hit kind of hard on the shoulder last night, and I was like, please don't be hurt.
Josh Doan?
No, sorry, Josh Norris.
Okay.
Sorry, too many Joshes on this team.
Yeah.
That's all we got for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, head over down to the description below and subscribe, notification bell. Check us out on all of our social media platforms. New episodes every single Sunday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, we'll see you guys in our next episode.